Je parle de, well, clearly, things can't just be rainbows and sunshine all the times, even in fire, right? Right. I hope that's not some illusion anyone has. So yeah, today I'm going to talk about or reveal at least what's, in my opinion, the most common and maybe unexpected downsides to, actually retiring early. Ayo, Zempak here. So in the good old southern US of A, we've actually had some actual weather and snow weather, my god. The land of 6 month summers. Yes, we still get some crappy freezing weather here and there, and that's really how I feel about the downsides of fire, okay? I don't want to pretend that they don't exist, because they do, but let's be honest, okay? They're still few and far between, and I will go over how to mitigate these, okay? Yeah, let's just call them relative weak points in the process of, total and utter adult freedom. Okay, or rather, like, please keep in mind, freedom for rather fire to me is basically like reverting to childhood in terms of unadulterated happiness. But we are still human beings, and we still want to nitpick. I know I do. So today I want to address the kind of passive feelings that retiring early not only doesn't solve, but perhaps even exacerbates a little bit, okay? As always, your mileage may vary. I can only speak from personal experience, but at least you know my experience is true. I haven't had a real job in more than 5 years now. Oh man, that just sounds weird no matter how many times I say it. So, if you're intrigued by what I might say, please subscribe, like, comment, and share, and all that social media buzzwords or whatever, because I am rich enough for me, and I'll be great regardless. Now, the clearest and most immediate downside of fire is a simple one, okay? That's you're going to have a reduced social sphere of influence, essentially. Okay? By that I mean, well, you have less work friends. I mean, in a way, you now have zero work friends because you don't have any work anymore, right? My wifey specifically was particularly concerned with this one right before she left the workforce, right? Now, I countered or refuted that with, any colleagues that you would want to be friendly with, afterwards, you can still do that after you leave the job, okay? Frankly, now, if those people, your work friends, fade out of your life or something like that, then clearly they didn't really like you that much as a real friend to begin with, right? So really, all leaving work does is filter out those friends of convenience that you have at wherever you were employed last. Now, for me personally, I don't think this was a big deal, because in my relatively short 16-year real job career time, I changed jobs at least a handful of times before getting to fire. So I already knew that I can keep former coworkers as friends, even if I no longer work with them, right? But hey, now on a day-to-day basis, maybe you miss out on those water cooler conversations or whatever, but think about it like this, right? Is fun personal gossip about your colleagues worth 95 to 50 weeks a year? Absolutely not, okay? I mean, if I really miss it, I just go volunteer at the local public service places like a library or food bank, okay? Any of those will provide a chance to simply be around other people and chit-chat, okay? Except, it's not work because you don't have to go. Big difference. Now, second point that I found that's particularly clear now, but less so prior to firing, is the lack of external or societal level confirmations about who you are. At least, especially in the U.S. I mean, this country just loves to pride itself on hard work so much that sometimes it can feel like all people want to talk about is their jobs. And now, if you're no longer defined by your job, that can get a little bit awkward. Of course, it's not solely an American thing. I mean, my Asian uncle literally could not understand me when I told him I'm retired, right? I had to amend my original story by telling him, yeah, I guess occasionally I buy and sell equity income, right? And he was like, oh, okay, so you're a stock trader person, because as a job, he understood that as a thing that exists and is worthwhile, not retired and doing nothing, okay? I mean, there's a reason why I want people to not really ask me questions about my, if I don't want them to ask me questions about my FI state, I just call myself an investor or a financial manager of one, really myself, okay? I mean, the lack of general community understanding, I think, hits some people more than others, right? I'm pretty sure it affects my parents more than me because technically they can no longer boast about me working for a giant, well-known, beloved tech giant, right? But I'm 70% sure my folks simply just keep pretending I still work at said tech company in front of their casual acquaintances, at least, okay? So yeah, I suppose a bit of white lie never hurt anyone, at least not until somebody wants my help with an Apple discount, right? Personally, my solution is simple, right? Just let go of caring about what those external opinions of myself totally. I mean, I've won the game. I really don't need to go out and shout about it to other people. If they don't understand it, that's their problem. I've still already won. So, yeah. Now, finally, I think this one I'm most conflicted in terms of how to adjust, and that's the lack of motivation to really get deep into some hobbies, right? So I don't mean that I'm not interested or motivated to do anything. That's not true. It's easy to start things after retiring early because, well, we've got a ton of time. But just like how sometimes, when you live in the same city for a long time, you don't actually go to the local tourist attractions because, you've always lived there and thinks that there's always time. I think it's similar in post-fire in terms of activities, right? Now that there's an overabundance of time, it's easy to fall into the trap of, I can get to whatever thing I have a minor interest in. At some point, I can get to it whenever, so why start today? And even if, personally, if I do start a new hobby or a new craft, there's less incentive to go down the rabbit hole, right, to obsess about it. I'd say, maybe this issue depends on how, or whether someone has a very obsessive personality, right? Like, if you do, maybe it affects you less. I know for me, as you can see from these ranty clips that I make every week or so, right? Sure, I've kept up making them, but I've hardly spent time to really hone my craft. And you know why, right? I think I talked about it. It's because I enjoy the writing process, so I don't mind, keep writing weekly clips, but the rest of the editing and the presentational aspect of this type of hobby, I don't really care for it, okay? I understand those things are necessary if I want to make my offering look more attractive, but I literally have very little incentive to improve on that aspect of the hobby that makes it generally likable, okay? So yeah, it's easy to pick up on new hobbies, but a lack of having to improve as presented by already winning at life can make any activity seem like a bit of a grind, okay? And less likely to happen, at least, it has for me, okay? So in conclusion, are there womp womp moments that, I no longer have to work still? Yes. I'd say those downside points is more mental or philosophical generally, right? I mean, the social sphere reduction point, I think, can be mitigated by simply making friends from your hobbies, okay? Now, I get it, there's no perfect solution to any of these, even to, say, making friends, because it's hard to make friends as an adult. I recognize that, right? No matter how much we would like that to not be the case. However, we cannot forget the tremendous single biggest upside of fire, even while pondering its weaknesses, right? And that is, well, we have a lot of time to work on any problems that we have, right? Working on deepening social ties, working on letting go of other people's useless expectations of you, and finally working on finding out whatever it is that we do still want to be obsessive about and therefore passionate about, right? So what do you guys think? Am I off my rockers or am I, as usual, always right? I'm just kidding, okay? Cheers. A la Protion.